Hey, hello, how's it going? My name is George. This is my channel. The journey is real. This video is about my lifestyle, and today my emphasis is going to be on the uncertain times that we are living in. Minimalist living and how it can help you survive, make you crisis proof, and besides that, it's about freedom. I'm coming down a trail here. It's still a little bit icy, and where it's not icy, it's wet and it's getting muddy. Temperature is about 8 degrees Celsius, of course. That's what we have here in Canada. So minimalism, guys. Did you see these huge homes where I was walking by when I was making my introduction? Well, imagine you own one of these homes and you have a job that can cover the mortgage, no problem. But now there's a situation going on where the entire Canadian industry is kind of uncertain. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. People hesitate to make investments and stuff, and all of a sudden your job doesn't look so sure anymore. What kind of feeling does it give you? Now, I'm sure there are some people who own big houses like that and they got them paid off. Well, that's awesome. Probably if you live in a neighborhood like this, you must also have a nice car, because there isn't really any public transport here that you would want to use. Who would want to use public transport, a freaking bus, when they're living up on the hill like that? Well, I don't know, but you know, the lifestyle that you choose for yourself and how much it's worth to you has a big impact on how crisis resistant you are. Now, if you choose a simple life, a minimalist lifestyle basically, then you probably minimize your expenses to the least amount you could be spending on a monthly base. Perhaps you're debt-free, and that means a whole lot more freedom. That means if things go wrong, you lose your job, or you don't get any business if you're self-employed or you have a business, you can live with that for a few days, weeks, or maybe even a year, perhaps longer than that. It all depends on how you set yourself up when the times are good, what you do with your funds, whether you try to upscale your lifestyle to a point where you have everything, the latest stuff, you know. You got like the dream life, the American dream. Can I say Canadian dream? Maybe it's different here. Minimalism probably resonates more in Canada than it does in the States, doesn't it? You can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But to me, minimalism is where it's at, guys. And minimalism is not just about owning less stuff. It's about simplifying my life. It's about making choices that I can afford no matter what. I'll give you an example. Barbara and I, we consume a lot of yogurt. You know, I don't even know what the yogurt prices are in Canada right now, because all I need is to make 6 containers of yogurt is a gallon of milk and a few tablespoons of a yogurt that I either have to buy or that I made on the previous batch. So we do things like that. Simplify our lives, make simpler choices, spend less money on things that we don't really believe in. Like we have a car that is now, let me think what year we are. Yeah, it's about 13 years old. My pickup truck's 36 years old. Why? Because those things work for us. With a little bit of maintenance, it's the cheapest way we can have vehicles. If something goes wrong, I know how to fix it myself. It's a do-it-yourself kind of thing. Now, if you upgrade every year, you end up with payments every year. You end up with more and more payments all the time, never stops. And besides that, You end up with vehicles that if something goes wrong, you are dependent on a dealer to get them fixed. And of course, if you buy brand new all the time, yeah, you've got a warranty. But let me be quite frank. Can you afford a brand new car? Minimalist lifestyle for me, that's where it's at. So where I'm at, it's now the Fort Edmonton footbridge that you see in front of me. But I'm not going to cross that. I'm actually going to go on this little rugged trail that's to my right here, because I want to kind of get down to the river. I don't know how far I'll get, but that's the idea, you know. And I can see there's a lot of ice still here. So what advantages does minimalism give you besides simplifying your life? Well, for Barbara and I, it meant that uncertainty is not a big deal. We minimized our monthly expenses as much as possible already to begin with, so that we could enjoy the freedom we have through being self-employed. So when we choose to take time off, we can actually get away, we can actually do things, and if we have the financial means of doing so, well, then we will spend 2 months, maybe more in the future, in a different place where we enjoy the winter more. That's where it's warmer, the climate's better. So when you hear the word uncertainty, does it scare you in a way? I mean, if you are used to going to a job 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and the nice part about that, you've gotten used to getting this paycheck every other week or whatever your payday is, you can count on it. You don't have to worry about it a thing. Now, if you're in that situation for X number of years, then that is the only thing you know. You can then adjust your lifestyle accordingly. You can buy stuff. You know when you can make the payments. You could just upgrade everything that, you know, go with the times, you know, be in the 21st century. When you're self-employed, you have to be willing and able to embrace uncertainty. That's the thing, and that you can achieve it through a minimalist lifestyle much easier because your income doesn't have to be as high every single month because you're already reducing the number of bills that you'll have. That's one of the keys to minimalism. You make your choices and you focus on those, and whatever doesn't serve you in that way, you don't even bother with it. That's not to say that you never make an investment in some comfort thing or you never sidetrack or anything. You make your choices. You just make your choices with that in mind, you know. You don't go splurging. And most of all, how much money do you spend on entertainment? And how much value does that entertainment ultimately give you? Say you're going to the movies. I mean, it used to be fairly cheap to go to the movies once a week. But now I don't even know what a movie ticket is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the $30 range. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm in Canada, so we have Canadian dollars here. It's different in the US. Now, if you save that and you go and watch a movie on YouTube or what have you, Prime or whatever, you know, the entertainment value, in my opinion, is pretty much the same unless you go perhaps once a year on a big screen or whatever. Some people have the big screen in their house. Do you need that? So it's those little choices that give you more freedom. For us, the priority to be able to travel when wintertime, when it's cold here, the business is slow and all that, well, that's a top priority, and that's where both Barbara and I are aligned. And we have managed to pull that off for the past number of years, every single year, even though our incomes are, by Canadian standards, compared to the average, they fall into the low income bracket. We don't pay a lot of income taxes, and it's in part because, I mean, think about it. There are 2 months out of the year, every single year, that we don't do any business, we don't work. So there's only 10 months that we're actually taking income. And so our income throughout the year is smaller as a result. Well, the challenge is to get by on what we make and still save enough money to actually do something, like going to Mexico for 2 months. That is, every year, that's the challenge. And tell you right now, there is no way I could predict whether that's going to happen next year or not. But with a minimalist mindset, I can tell you that the chances are actually pretty good. I mean, what we did this year was on a shoestring budget. And you've seen, perhaps, if you follow this channel, you've perhaps seen it. So I could proudly say that what we did last year was miraculous. I bought a pickup truck that was not movable even, it had to be towed to the house. Didn't have keys for it. It wasn't turning over, it had nothing, it was not functional. Well, I worked on it for 8 months more or less, but now I have a functional pickup truck. And that pickup, guys, it beats pretty much everything in my mind that you could pick up new at the dealership for, say, $80,000. So I'm quite happy about this, obviously. See, if I had the mindset that I need for a stable business, I need a reliable truck, and I have to buy something that is at least no more than 5 or 10 years old, I would be in debt right now. I would be a slave to this vehicle, even though I could probably rely on it for a number of years. But the choice I made instead is just, instead of working so much on my business, instead of fixing other people's things, I bought something for myself that, if I'm honest about it, at the beginning there wasn't very much hope for it to ever function like it should. And there were moments when I really questioned my sanity about this. But today I stand here proud and I can say that it was totally worth it. Not just for having a truck that's functional and fit for work, and also a simple vehicle that you can't buy new anymore. It's also reliable because I went through all the systems myself. But, I learned a lot. Learning, to me, it's a priority, and as a minimalist, I want to focus on that. I can do that in ways that don't cost me much for a course, or, it's hands-on stuff. And you could sometimes call that learning the hard way. Yeah, there are moments where I was sweating it, but there were also moments of pride and joy because finally I got something to work that previously wasn't. You know how rewarding it is when you fix up your own stuff? And that doesn't just go for a truck, it goes for everything. Whatever we need, even though I'm not always in the mood for it, but basically, my skills, they're worth more than any job would be that perhaps puts me in a team where then I am committed to them, So the way I live, I'm committed to a customer perhaps for a couple of days, sometimes a week, sometimes even 2 weeks. But, I always get to weigh the pros and cons myself on a case-to-case basis because as an independent small business, I have that freedom. And as a minimalist, I don't necessarily have the need to have a steady income the entire time. So I think I have to slowly but surely head back here. I mean, look at the condition of the trail. And I was hoping to get down there, but the ice is not thick enough to go on there. That'd be dangerous. The trail isn't really that great. The minimalism doesn't just go as far as getting more cheaper house or an old car. It goes on day-to-day things like when I have the option, I will not use a car. I will use my bicycle. My bicycle, it's from the 1980s. I have 3 of them, but they basically didn't cost me anything, $100. But over the years, I spend more in parts to keep them going than the initial investment. And that's the same with Barbara's bikes. So we have something that's very, very simple, and it costs only a fraction of what most people will spend on their bikes when they go to a bicycle store and pick a bike for, say, $2,000, which is easy to spend on a nice bike. For myself, in my entire life, I've never spent that kind of money on a bicycle. From basically day one, when something goes wrong with my bike, look, I'm on my own, I gotta fix this, and if I don't know how, I gotta learn it, I gotta figure it out. And it's easy to figure it out. Once you get used to that kind of lifestyle, and especially today, when you have a computer and you have the internet and you have access to more information than you'll actually ever need. You just have to kind of learn how to search for stuff. And so many times, Google has helped me out. More recently, have you ever had a real conversation with ChatGPT when you had a problem to solve? I mean, you can always twist the advice until it kind of makes sense to you. You go back and forth. It's a beautiful thing, guys. But that's besides the point. The minimalism also extends into what we eat. We choose our groceries, we buy them where they're inexpensive, we cook our own stuff. We cook on average twice a day. And the rest of the time, well, we grab something from the fridge, a snack, or make a sandwich or whatever. But restaurant meals are limited to once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks. And even then, you won't find me in a fancy Michelin star restaurant. Even though it's probably fantastic, I'm totally okay with not having that experience because I can learn how to cook this stuff myself. Jeez. You see all this ice that is still here? Yeah. And there's more water there, or more ice than there's usually. So I can't even get to that island very safely. So I have to see what I'm gonna do. You know, having brought my drone here, that's the backpack I'm wearing. See, this is my form of hobby, entertainment, and yes, the drone cost me some money. It's not the latest model or nothing, but it is something that I can do, that I can keep doing, and basically I can focus on my techniques and all this. I don't have to travel very far to get good drone footage. I can do something that makes me feel alive. It gives me a challenge, stimulation, that doesn't really cost me anything at this point. So the minimalism also extends into when we travel. When I tell people that we go to Mexico for 2 months, usually I see the eyebrows raise. Holy, that's a long time. I mean, first of all, it requires you not to have a steady job. How else you're gonna pull it off, you know, year after year? You can't. That's the reality. You can't do it. See, when we travel, the way that usually looks, we get the cheapest flight we could get, flexible with the date, because that's where the key is. You know, you have certain dates where the flight could cost you double than what it costs a day or two later. And then accommodation. You may have seen the little apartment we rented as an Airbnb. And I guarantee you that a lot of people with higher standards than we have probably wouldn't have considered that even. And even for us, I mean, for a 2-month stay, we probably next time we're going to pick something that's a little bit bigger, a little bit more comfortable. But it's a learning experience, and we made the absolute best of it and tremendously enjoyed our time down there. I think that comes through in the videos that you can see on this channel. Travel during the winter, it seems risky at first glance, and it keeps me from earning a higher income. The truth is that we have never regretted a trip, because it's ultimately the time that you spend and the quality of the time that you spend that stays with you for a lifetime. If you buy a big fancy house or a big fancy car, it becomes a burden after a while, especially if you're not able to pay it all at once. So then you're paying interest. You become a slave to your creditors, the bank, the car dealership, whatever, the mortgage company. Yeah, we're not totally financially independent, but we're a lot more flexible than most people that are striving toward always the best and always more. So my advice in uncertain times that we definitely have right now, I mean, you don't even know how many people are going to lose their jobs, especially here in Canada. But in the United States, the same thing. I mean, look at the stock market's already crashed because of policies that the US government implemented. And it's a man-made crisis, of course, but it's serious. And the more flexible you are, which you can accomplish through a minimalist lifestyle, the better off you are. You know, you're basically resilient to all this stuff. And not only are you resilient, you also learn from it, and you end up thriving in the end, you know. When I look around, I see a lot of worried people right now. What if I lose my job? It is serious, but at the same time, you might see that as an opportunity perhaps to find ways, using your own skills and perhaps upgrading your skills to the point where you can thrive on your own and where you can thrive on uncertainty, which basically means that you have to find your opportunities on a weekly, perhaps even daily base. It could seem overwhelming when you first start that, when you've never done that. But when it becomes a lifestyle, you are so much better off for it in the end. In this current environment where nothing is certain, where things can go sideways really fast, or they could also go the opposite way, where all of a sudden you're doing really well. I mean, let's hope that's the case. But still, I want to provoke some thought in you so that you can consider what is this really all about? Where are your values? And can you get by on less by just focusing on the things that you really value the most? So guys, I leave it at this. This is about minimalism. I am a proud minimalist. I'm not always perfect following minimalism. And for me, it's not about decluttering the closet or something, or even the shed. I mean, maybe that's something that needs to be done also. And I'm honestly, I'm not the greatest at that. But there comes always a time when there's no way around it, and I'll pull through with it, and I'll simplify my life at all different angles. And well, when you can do that, I believe you're ahead of everybody else. So I hope that helps somebody. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you very soon in another video.